And welcome back. This is the Gunsmith Show. I'm John.
And I'm Jake.
And we got some pretty cool stuff to talk about with you right now.
That's right. We are going to talk about some news that happened here about this Winchester 1873 model that was discovered in the Great Basin National Park out in Nevada.
Very interesting story. This is one of those things when we go hunting, I'm always looking around the base of trees, when you get up in the national forest and thinking, what if, somebody, drank too many
Busch Lights,
Black Label beers or whatever, and left that 30-06 pre-64 Model 70 leaning against a tree.
Well, this can happen like that, but it happened 132 years ago.
Do they know when it was lost?
They know what year the gun was made by the serial number.
Yeah.
So what it is, it's a Winchester model 1873 that was made in the year 1882.
Okay.
They know that because Winchester has always been very good on their serial numbering.
Sure.
So they know exactly when the gun was made, but what they don't know is who the gun was made for or who it was shipped to.
Okay.
So what they're doing currently is...
I don't hold my invoices that long either, so...
Now, it was discovered by archaeologists in the area. They were really... I don't know what they were doing in the area, but it's one of the newer national parks. So they were actually just searching the area looking for any artifacts they might discover, and they definitely discovered an artifact. The rifle itself was leaned up against the base of a tree.
I would just love to find one of these. Wouldn't it just be cool to go out and say, oh my gosh, look what I found.
And it actually, some of the pictures of it blended in pretty well. We're going to post some pictures on our Facebook page later today about this.
Okay.
It really blended in. After all the years, the stock itself weathered and split in a way that it looked like the tree it was leaned up against. The metal had completely browned up and actually rusty in some areas.
Well, I would certainly hope so.
If it didn't rust, that would be some really tough bluing. That's that famous Winchester bluing. Right.
I'd say so.
And but nobody knows how the rifle got there. They're not sure if... They said at the time that area was very heavily concentrated with cattle work. There was a tremendous amount of cattle in the area. So it might have been one of the cattle workers. One of the guys on a horse sat down for lunch, left his rifle up against a tree, and had to jump on the horse and leave and left the rifle.
Pretty interesting. Not knowing what year it was left there, that's the only question, is
right. And
might
they're
have
actually
been
going
20 years ago, but it was by the condition of the stock, it must have been a long time ago.
Been a long time ago.
Yep.
Now they're actually going through newspapers and articles from the time to see if there's any notice of a gun being stolen or if there's any notice at all of anybody who was missing a rifle.
It could even have been Indians left it out there.
Could have been.
You never know. 1873 or 1875.
No, 1880.
Oh, 1882. I'm sorry. Yep. Yeah, that's right. So if there's...
it was at least 1882. That's when the gun was made.
This is what, what gets me is this is that little spark that makes you say, yeah, I'm going to keep looking when I'm in the woods because you just never know.
That's right. Now, the park it's a national park, okay?
All right.
They're actually having the gun sent to a refurbishing shop. And what they're going to do is basically preserve this rifle. And what it sounds like is they're going to actually redo it to make it look new.
Really?
And because it was discovered in the park and they're trying to make it look nice and it's going to be on display in the Park Visitor Center. Which, that's always a nice thing. If you ever get a chance to visit any of our national parks, always make sure to take time to go to the visitor centers because there's so much information there about the area. And it is pretty amazing when you go out to some of them. If you go out to the Teddy Roosevelt National Park,
yes,
in North Dakota, they have a visitor center there, and you can actually look and see, and you realize the animals that were in the area, and they actually talk about how the hunting in the area, and a lot of times you'll find things like guns or shell casings that were found in the area.
Yeah, I could certainly see at Teddy Roosevelt's National Park it would be that way.
Right.
Now, in our area, do we have any big national parks in Michigan?
Well, Isle Royal.
Isle Royal.
And then the next closest one, which is actually closer than Isle Royal, is in Ohio, Cuyahoga Valley National Park,
and
which is more of a walking path type of place.
But it's
a nice park. I've been there.
You enjoyed that one last year.
Yep.
Now, as far as this 1873, I'd like to
Yes.
start talking about this rifle.
Now, so what is the Winchester 1873?
Well,
They're lever actions.
yes.
Lever action Winchesters. And they were only made from, of course, 1873 to 1916.
Now, these guns are styled a little bit more like, they look a little bit more like a Henry, don't they?
Somewhat.
Yeah, a little
Somewhat.
bit.
They have a little more of a pronounced receiver.
Yes.
Dust covers on the receiver, other items like that it's not just a smooth face on both sides.
And the 1873, I believe they did a whole movie and everything about this rifle.
Yeah, with
Yep.
Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah. So
And it was
there was some fabled folklore around the gun. So
now there were so many made. There were 720,610 made
wow,
back then.
that's
So
a lot of
they
guns.
said there were so many produced. That's what gave it the name, the gun that won the West, because there were so many that basically they said at the time everybody had one. Now they
Imagine
had
how much ammunition was manufactured.
right.
That's amazing.
Now these rifles were chambered in 44,
Winchester centerfire.
which is essentially 4440,
Yes, very very close.
and 38 Winchester centerfire. And once the 1900s came around, they're actually available in 32 Winchester centerfire.
Interesting.
And there was a very, very select few of them that were available in 22.
No kidding. I
Yep.
never heard of that.
They
one.
said that, but the actions were too long. The 22 didn't work that well in them.
It's a big rifle to be a 22.
Yes.
You know, because they're more sizable than there's more heft to these guns than like a Model 94.
Correct.
They're a thicker, bigger gun. They're just they're works of art.
Well,
I'm surprised. What gets me is that there were 720,000 of them made.
back then.
Yes.
Well, that's what made Winchester the powerhouse that led it through the next 100 years.
It's amazing when you look at the history of gun manufacturing in the 1800s in the United States of how in Colt and Winchester and Browning, these guys were making guns for world leaders, and then they would go present them to the world leaders, and princes and kings, and then those countries would, of course, this was PR work,
Right.
because they would then outfit their military with that manufacturer's rifles.
Absolutely.
So they were the finest works of art that they would bring those princes and kings and even queens and give them a cachet of beautiful weapons as gifts, merely as a promotional item to get them to buy and outfit their armies. And it worked. What do you got?
The 1873s had sights that were actually 100, 300, and 500 yards graduated flip-up sights.
That's awesome. Now, so you weren't exactly Quigley Down Under with these rifles, but they were some good.
They were
decent ranged rifles. I
Okay.
imagine you could take deer-size animal and human-size.
Oh, I'm
at
sure
that
this
range.
used.
Sure.
This was used on plenty of buffalo as well.
Probably was.
Now, most of them had 24-inch octagon barrels.
Yep.
But the carbines actually had 20-inch round barrels.
Huh? All right.
Walnuts, beautiful walnut stocks.
Yeah.
It was back when it was a really American walnut they
There
used.
must have been a lot of walnut trees in this country, I tell you, with the amount of walnut
And
stocks.
And it had the famous metal crescent-shaped butt plate. Now, in 1896, this rifle sold for $20.
No kidding.
$20 rifle. You could order it in any of your catalogs. Your
That was
Sears
probably
catalog.
a month's salary at that time. You probably made $5-6 a week back then if you were working.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, cattlemen probably made some good money. But
Yep.
now, today, I looked on some auction sites. If you found one in, let's say, 90% condition in the 44 W.C.F. cartridge with the 24-inch octagon barrel, right now it's about $14,000.
It's pretty good return on
So-
the dollar.
Oh, so check that wall hanger above the fireplace.
You never know. It just might be.
Now, these 1873s, there was many different models. There was actually 3 generations, a first, second, and a third, that they changed slight things throughout the course of the rifle's production.
Right.
And it was all due to the serial numbers. But these were actually also the 1 of 1,000 Winchesters were out of the 1873s. They only made 1,000, and came from the factory, basically their first limited edition rifle. one of 1,000. It was
No
inscribed
kidding.
right on the barrel.
Good. So that was the beginning. They realizing they were going to be collectors.
Right.
And,
So
you know,
those were one of the models they offered.
Imagine the pride and the hand craftsmanship that went into these guns back then. You know,
Right.
yeah, they were mass produced, but still, those people with files and all the sanding tools and all the
Yep.
tools it took to make those guns, and the craftsmanship and the amount of people employed by Winchester and the subsidiaries.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Now,
Pretty amazing.
Winchester actually Winchester is now owned by Browning,
Yeah.
which they're all owned by FN.
Yeah.
So they have decided to remake these rifles. But they're only available right now in the 20-inch round barrel, which that's still okay.
Yeah. Good looking guns.
So it's basically a remake of the 1873. They actually come in 357 Magnum, 4440, and 45 Colt.
Well, that's more towards our era.
Right.
And you always want to get ammunition that's available. That's one of the things I always stress on people. If you're going to buy a rifle or a pistol, make sure you can get ammo for it.
Now the price tag on one of these new ones, it's $1,299.
Is that suggested retail?
That's
or?
suggested retail.
Okay. So it might be it might vary a little bit, but not too much.
Yep.
So that's not bad though. And
So-
still beautiful guns.
From 1882 till now, the rifle has actually not changed that much.
No, you're right. It hasn't.
You know, there's not many things that are still around from 1882.
Well, thank God the White House and United
Stuff
States
like-
Constitution.
Stuff like that, but
Well, I think that the
it's hard to find anything that's old and it wasn't a pile of rust sitting on the ground. This
Right.
was still up against a tree.
that's what makes me wonder what year it went in there. But the conditions in that forest are maybe they're not real acidic or something. Wherever it was, it must not have been too bad.
It's a dry heat.
Yeah, is that what it is?
It's a dry heat.
Yeah, well, hey, it's a healthy rifle with some aging. It's a very interesting story, though. I'm glad you found that.
Yep.
And when did this story break?
It was actually, I believe it was the 13th or the 14th of January. So
Really?
just recently, it might have been even last weekend that was actually discovered in the park.
What a find. Well, I tell you. You never know what you're going to find walking through the national forests and parks of this country. And it might be right out in your fence row in your backyard. You just never know. You never know.
Might be in the farm fields.
Yeah. Well, a lot of things lost, and you've probably misplaced things over the years. And
I know
when
you've misplaced camouflage knives in the woods.
It was a throwing knife, and it glanced off a tree. So don't give me a hard time.
All right, well, we have to go to commercial break.
All right, we'll be right back in just a short break here, and the Gunsmith Show will be right back.